Welcome, dear brave soul. You're tuning into Horror Podcast, and I'm truly grateful you're here. Whether you're a long-time listener or just stumbled upon this channel, thank you for joining me for another scary tale. If you enjoy these stories, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and means more than you know. I'd also love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from, what brought you here, or even what kind of story you'd like to hear next. Your support keeps this channel going, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Now, let's get into today's horror story. My partner and I moved to Sacramento in 2021, right as rent started creeping up everywhere and we had to make some fast decisions. We found this one-bedroom unit in a newer apartment complex tucked behind a Costco off Power Inn Road. Not glamorous, but it felt safe. The buildings had open-air walkways and big balconies that all pointed toward the central parking lot, and from ours you could see pretty much everything. Carts rolling around, customers loading their trunks, delivery trucks pulling in and out. At night, the Costco lights stayed on just enough to make the parking lot glow a dull orange. We were on the third floor, in Building C. Quiet corner. Mostly retirees, young couples, the occasional loud college kid 2 floors down. I'm Elena, by the way, 31 now, but I still remember the exact night this all started because I'd just come back from a week visiting my sister in Oakland, and I was craving one thing: Costco's rotisserie chicken and that giant Caesar salad kit. I figured I'd run down there, grab what I needed, and chill for the rest of the evening. It was a Thursday. Around 8:15, I parked near the tire center and made my way in through the side entrance. That spot was always less crowded. I remember passing this man standing near the returns counter, staring at one of the snack sample booths. Didn't think much of it. You see a lot of people zone out in there, but I noticed his hands weren't holding anything. No cart, pot, no basket. Just standing there with both hands in his hoodie pocket. Didn't think about him again until I saw him later. After I checked out, I rolled my cart past the propane tanks and across the lot. The security lights were flickering again, something they'd been promising to fix for weeks. I remember this because I looked up and squinted as I passed under one. Then, I looked back down and felt it. Someone was behind me. Not close, but trailing. I turned to check. It was the same man. Hoodie up, head low, hands still in his pocket. He was walking slowly like he had nowhere to be, but matching my steps just close enough to make me uncomfortable. I crossed toward my building a little faster. Our complex shares a side lot with Costco, so if you cut through the staff lot and follow the pathway behind the dumpsters, you end up at the west gate to our apartments. It's not locked, which is something I always hated. Just a swinging metal fence anyone can open from either side. He didn't follow me through. At least, I didn't see him after that. But the next morning when I left for work, I saw a cigarette butt right outside our door, still faintly warm. And we don't smoke. I told my partner Mason that night. He brushed it off, said maybe it blew in from the walkway, maybe someone from a different unit. I tried to believe him, but a week later it happened again. Same time of day, another solo Costco run, this time for bulk coffee and those chicken nuggets Mason's addicted to. I was halfway through the store when I saw the man again. Same dark hoodie. Just standing in the freezer aisle, not looking at anything, not touching anything. He didn't follow me out this time. But when I got home, I saw him again, from our balcony. He was in the parking lot near the tire center, pacing slowly between 2 parked trucks. The lights flickered behind him. I shut our curtain. I didn't say anything that night. I wanted to believe it was nothing. But over the next few weeks, the pattern kept building. Every Thursday, around the same time, I'd see him somewhere, either inside the store near the front entrance or out by the propane tanks. He never bought anything. Never pushed a cart. Sometimes he'd just stand by the vending machines. Sometimes he'd light a cigarette and let it burn halfway down without ever taking a drag. One night, I stayed home and Mason went to pick up a few things instead. He came back and mentioned a guy staring at him in the checkout line. Said he looked strung out. Sunken eyes, pale skin, kind of gaunt like he hadn't eaten in a while. Didn't say a word, Mason said, just watched. I asked him to describe him and my stomach dropped. That same week, someone started knocking on our door late at night. It started subtle, just one knock, always around 9:45. Then it escalated. Harder hits like someone slamming the side of their fist against the frame. But when we looked through the people, no one was there. Not once. We told the leasing office. They said they'd increased patrols and suggested a door camera. We bought one. Installed it the next day. First night with the camera, we caught him. 9:42 p.m., footage showed a man in a black hoodie step into frame, head tilted toward the doorbell camera, but never looking directly at it. He stood motionless for a full 30 seconds, then knocked. 4 sharp bangs. Afterward, he walked away, not toward the stairs, not toward the elevator. Just out of frame. We filed a report, showed the footage. The leasing manager forwarded it to building security. I didn't feel any safer. That Friday, I stayed up late grading papers on the couch. Around 11:30, I got up to lock the balcony slider. I glanced across the complex and froze. There he was, on the opposite walkway, standing behind the railing. Perfect line of sight to our apartment, arms resting on the bar, hood up, just watching. I ducked. I waited. 5 minutes passed. I peeked again. He hadn't moved. I texted Mason, who was at a friend's poker night. He told me to call security. I did. It took them over 20 minutes to respond, and by then, the man was gone. Every Thursday or Friday for the next 2 weeks, it kept happening. Different spots, sometimes closer, sometimes just out of range, but always watching. Always alone. We stopped going to Costco. Mason started bringing groceries from work. We started using blackout curtains. Slept with a baseball bat under the bed. I couldn't concentrate at work. I couldn't shake the idea that he didn't live here, that he came from somewhere else, that maybe he'd followed me home that very first night. And still, no one seemed to care. The cops said they couldn't do much unless he broke in or threatened us. Just someone loitering, they said. Keep your doors locked. That's where we're at now. It's been 3 days since the last time I saw him, but I still feel it. That pull toward the curtains every night. That jump in my chest every time a floorboard creaks. I don't know who he is. I don't know what he wants. But I know he's still out there, and I know I'll never look at a Costco parking lot the same way again. My first memory isn't a birthday party or a scraped knee or even a favorite toy. It's the sound of fluorescent lights humming above me, the cold metal of a shopping cart under my legs, and a woman I didn't know trying to take me from it. I was 4 when it happened. Back then, my mom was working a double shift at the hospital, and my dad, who usually worked from home, had to attend some kind of client meeting across town. So they left me with Mrs. Tucker, our neighbor 2 doors down. She had 3 kids of her own and ran a casual daycare setup for a few of us in the cul-de-sac. Nothing formal, just good old neighborly trust. Her oldest, Hannah, was 5 and bossy, and her middle son would eat paper if left unsupervised. I didn't mind being there. She let us watch cartoons in the mornings and usually had goldfish crackers on the counter in a Tupperware bowl. That day, we were all supposed to tag along while she ran errands. I remember she made a big deal about how we'd get free samples at Costco if we behaved. So we all piled into her SUV. Me, Hannah, and her youngest, Sophie, who was still in a booster seat. The store was only about 10 minutes away from our neighborhood in Bakersfield. It was a Wednesday morning in early October, still warm, sunny, and slow in that suburban California kind of way. I remember I was wearing this red jumper with apples on it. It had my name stitched across the front in tiny white letters. I don't know if my mom thought it was cute or just practical, but I hated how itchy the collar was. Anyway, we got to the store and Mrs. Tucker grabbed one of those big flatbed carts since she said she was doing a bulk run. She lifted Sophie into the cart's child seat and Hannah and I stood on either side, riding it like a chariot while she pushed us toward the produce section. She kept rattling off a grocery list to herself, muttering things like apples, toilet paper, chicken thighs. That's when I saw them. A man and a woman. Older, probably in their 60s. The woman had one of those permed haircuts like my grandma had, and she was wearing a navy jacket with little embroidered ducks on the sleeves. The man had those yellow-tinted glasses old people wore back then, and he was holding a folded-up shopping list in one hand and a bottle of water in the other. Nothing about them felt wrong at first. They just looked out of place. They didn't have a cart. They weren't holding any items. just standing at the end of the aisle near the bananas. The woman smiled first. She bent slightly at the waist and said something like, "Aren't you just the cutest thing?" I remember Mrs. Tucker smiling back politely and saying thank you, probably used to strangers commenting on her kids. But then the woman pointed at me specifically. "She's adorable," she said. "Is she yours?" "No," Mrs. Tucker replied. "She's a neighbor's daughter. I babysit during the week." That detail must have triggered something because the woman's expression changed. Not drastically, just enough that, even at 4, I felt it. Like her smile froze a little too long. She reached out then. I was leaning against the cart's frame, and I felt her fingers brush my arm. It wasn't rough, but it was firm. She curled her hand under my elbow and gave it a little tug. "Why don't you come say hi, sweetheart?" I didn't move. I remember my legs locking up and my mouth going dry. Mrs. Tucker laughed awkwardly, pulling the cart back slightly. "She's shy," she said, and began to steer us away. But the woman didn't back off. She stepped closer, her voice quieter now. "We've always wanted a little girl," she said. Not to Mrs. Tucker, but directly to me. "You'd be perfect." Her hand was still on my arm, now trying to grip the fabric near my name. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just twisted hard enough that I slid down the cart frame and wedged myself into the corner behind Sophie, where she couldn't reach me. Mrs. Tucker must have finally realized what was happening, because she yanked the cart backward with enough force that it rolled into a stack of bottled water. The old man just stood there watching, not saying a word. The woman kept pleading, voice rising as she reached out again. "Please, just a moment. We don't mean any harm, please." That's when I finally started to cry. Loud, panicked sobs that echoed down the aisle. Mrs. Tucker told Hannah to hold on to Sophie and grabbed my hand. She dragged the cart toward the front of the store, fast enough that it bumped and rattled over the cracks in the concrete floor. We didn't stop for samples. We didn't stop for anything. I remember crouching next to the customer service desk with a tissue in my hand while Mrs. Tucker talked to an employee. She kept looking over her shoulder like she was expecting the woman to appear again. I don't think she ever did. Nobody took my name or made a report. I don't think anyone thought to call the police. The manager just walked us to the car and told Mrs. Tucker to stay safe. That was it. She never told my parents. I didn't either. Not until I was in college and found myself walking through that same Costco on a visit home. I stopped dead in the middle of the aisle near the produce section, my chest tightening at the memory. I told my mom later that night. She went pale and just kept saying, "Why didn't anyone tell me?" I still wonder that too. Maybe Mrs. Tucker thought she was protecting me. Or maybe she didn't want to cause a scene. It was a different time. But even now, years later, when I walk into a big box store with echoing ceilings and bright lights, I feel myself instinctively scanning the faces around me. I catch myself checking whether anyone is walking without a cart or pretending to shop without buying. I've had thousands of memories since then. But that one, my first, is burned into me like muscle memory. The way that woman looked at me, the way her fingers felt, the tone of her voice when she said she wanted a little girl. My name's Casey, and I still don't like grocery stores. It was a Sunday late afternoon, the kind where the store is just busy enough to be frustrating, but not chaotic. My mom wanted to do a Costco run for some basics, laundry pods, eggs, maybe that giant bag of pita chips we always burn through too fast. My younger cousin Sophie came with us, and she'd been staying over for the weekend. She's 9, a little shy, but sharp in a way that sneaks up on people. We figured we'd bribe her with a hot dog and one of those berry smoothies after. I'm Lauren, by the way. I'm 20 now, but this happened about a year ago. At the time, I'd just come back from school for spring break. We went to the Costco in Framingham, Massachusetts. That store's always been sort of neutral ground for me. Crowded but predictable. Everything in bulk, everyone just focused on their carts. You never expect things to veer off track in a place like that. We were in the books and toys aisle, the one that always feels kind of tucked away. Sophie had found one of those sticker activity books and was flipping through it on the floor. My mom was looking at a cookbook. I was standing nearby, people watching. That's when I noticed him. He was coming down the aisle slowly in a motorized cart, one of those scooters that the store provides. Older guy, probably late 70s or early 80s, wearing a beige windbreaker, pressed jeans, and one of those caps with a golf logo stitched on it. He didn't have anything in his cart. Just moved with this sort of steady slowness, like he was taking his time on purpose. As he passed us, he smiled. Not in a creepy way, not yet. More like the kind of smile you give when a little kid's doing something cute in public. My mom smiled back out of habit, and I did too. Sophie looked up and smiled, then quickly went back to her book. "Your daughter's got a great smile," the man said, his voice light but somehow too practiced. "Reminds me of my own. 8 or 9, right?" Sophie glanced up. 9. He chuckled. "Those are the best years. I loved those ages, 8 through 13. So much personality, but still sweet." I felt a tiny chill crawl up my spine. Not from the words, exactly, but from how deliberate they felt. Too polished, like he'd said them before. She talks like her daughter's age is frozen, I thought, past tense. Loved those ages. My mom gave a polite nod and stepped a little closer to Sophie. He kept going. "My daughter's in her 50s now. She married a dentist, real smart girl, always was. But I still love looking at old photos of her. I've got albums going back decades. Childhood's a beautiful thing to remember." Then suddenly, he looked straight at me. "You're tall," he said, smiling wider. "Got that strong posture? You in school?" I nodded. "Yeah, nursing." "Oh, a nurse," he said, beaming. "That's wonderful. We need more women in the field. It's comforting for patients, you know? Especially for older men like me. Nothing like a warm smile and soft hands to make us feel cared for." He held out his hand for a shake. I hesitated, but out of some twisted reflex of politeness, I took it. He didn't let go. His fingers curled a little too tight around mine, and his other hand reached up to grasp my wrist. Not harshly, not forcefully. Just slowly, like he was examining me. "You're lovely," he said, still smiling. "So bright. I hope you go far. A girl like you could do anything. Don't let any man tell you otherwise." I pulled back, pretending to laugh. "Thanks. I won't." He dropped my hand but lingered in front of us. He turned back towards Sophie. "She looks like the kind of kid who'd love a car ride," he said casually. "I've got a red 71 Camaro. Convertible. I take the girls in my neighborhood out sometimes, real slow, just around the block. They always beg me for one more lap." My mom tensed. Her face didn't show it, but I could see her shift slightly, stepping between him and Sophie without making it obvious. "That's kind of you," she said, voice flat. "But we should probably get going." "Oh, sure," he said, waving one hand. "I just like seeing families out together, so rare these days. People don't raise kids right anymore. Too much screen time, not enough real-world manners, like making eye contact." He looked at me again. Eye contact tells you everything you need to know. Look someone in the face. That's how you tell character. No need to look elsewhere. You keep your eyes on a woman's face, always. From the neck down, that belongs to her husband or boyfriend. Doesn't matter how she dresses. Look once, then don't look again. And as he said it, he looked, right down my body and back up again, then did the same to my mom. We didn't reply. He kept talking. "I was a chiropractor once. Touched a lot of women professionally, of course. Always with respect. Always as a gentleman. People trusted me because I was careful. These days, men forget how to be decent." I felt my face flush, but not from embarrassment. From this weird blend of disgust and discomfort, I could see Sophie looking up at us, confused. She knew something was off, but didn't quite understand what. I pulled out my phone and texted my friend to call me. She did, and I answered loudly. "Hey, yeah, we're in the book section still. Can you come meet us?" Yeah, we're heading out now." I mouthed "Dad" to my mom. She picked up on it fast. "Thanks for the chat," she said quickly. "We've got to go meet my husband." He chuckled. "All right, but listen, if you ever need anything, we're listed in the phone book, just under Roger and Lillian Vaughn. My wife's a counselor. Good people. You can always trust us. If you're ever in trouble, I can come pick you up. No funny business. I'm a Christian man. I don't do anything inappropriate." He winked. Actually winked. We pushed the cart away fast. Didn't run, but didn't linger. We didn't even finish the list. We left the store and didn't look back. In the car, Sophie asked, "Who is that guy?" My mom smiled thinly and said, "Just someone who talks too much." We didn't smile at anyone on the way out. Not even the greeter. It started on a Sunday, just after the 4th of July weekend, when things were finally quieting down. I was helping my cousin load cases of bottled water and bulk pantry items into the back of her SUV outside of Costco in Henderson, Nevada. The lot wasn't as packed as usual, but it was still hot, so hot the air shimmered above the asphalt. My cousin had run back inside to grab a return receipt she forgot, so I stood outside the car scrolling through my phone when I got a call. The number was unfamiliar but local. The guy on the other end said he was with Costco Logistics, and that there was an issue with a delivery that had been misrouted. He asked me to confirm my name and address so they could sort it out. I didn't think too much about it. I'd recently ordered a new office chair online and figured maybe Costco handled their shipping through a different channel. He already had my name and street correct, just missing the apartment number, so I filled it in and moved on. My name's Cole. I'm 26. I moved to Henderson about 2 years ago for work, got a small second-floor apartment not too far from that same Costco. It's not a bad area, quiet, mostly residential, lots of families and retirees. The kind of place where you stop locking your car after a while because nothing ever really happens. That same night, around 9:45, I got another call. Same voice. He said the delivery driver was nearby, but couldn't locate my unit. He asked if I could step outside to the roundabout at the complex entrance to help him flag the driver down. That part fell off. Deliveries don't usually happen that late here. And why wouldn't they just ring my buzzer? My gut wasn't sitting right with it, so I told my roommate, Jamie, and she agreed something felt weird. Instead of going out, I stayed inside while she took a walk down to the front gate to scope it out. She looped around twice and saw nothing. I joined her for a third pass, but still, nobody was there. No delivery truck, no van, nothing. Just a few parked cars and the occasional person walking their dog. But as she went out for one final lap, she spotted a dark gray Chevy Traverse parked across the street, half hidden behind a large hedge by the leasing office. She slowed down and looked at them, but no one rolled down the windows. Just two silhouettes in the front, staring straight ahead. She didn't engage and just kept walking. A few minutes later, the SUV was gone. The next evening, I was home alone around 8 p.m. when someone rang the downstairs intercom. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I ignored it. A couple minutes passed, and then I heard footsteps on the stairwell. Our unit faces the hallway, not the open air, so I couldn't see who it was without cracking the door. I listened, two voices, both male, probably young. Then I heard one of them say my full name. Not Cole, like a friend would say. Full government name. I froze. I had never seen them before, and the way they said it felt rehearsed, like they weren't here to say hi. They knocked once, then twice. Didn't leave a note. Just stood there for a while and left. They came back again later. Around 10 p.m., same deal, ringing the intercom, asking for me. I didn't answer, and eventually they left again. That's when I called the police. I explained everything, starting with the odd phone calls, the SUV, and now these two guys showing up. The officer said they'd noted and told me to call again if it escalated. The next day, Tuesday, passed without much incident. I tried to convince myself it was over. Maybe just a bizarre misunderstanding or someone playing a dumb prank. I went to work, came home, made dinner. Normal stuff. Then Wednesday night came. Around 11:15 p.m., I got a motion alert from our Nest cam facing the parking lot. I pulled up the feed, not expecting much, but my stomach dropped when I saw it. A man, tall, hoodie up, face mostly hidden, stood across the lot near a row of shrubs, just watching. He wasn't doing anything, just aiming a phone or camera toward the building. I couldn't tell if he was taking pictures or video, but he stayed there for a solid minute before walking off toward the alley behind the dumpsters. I sent the clip to the police and reported it. They said they'd send a cruiser to do a drive-through, but couldn't guarantee anything unless the guy was actively trespassing. I didn't sleep much that night. I left the hallway light on and double-checked the balcony lock more times than I can count. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still off. At 3:06 a.m., I heard a soft clunk. Not inside, outside. It sounded like something hit the balcony railing. I sat up, heart pounding, and listened. Another clunk, a little louder. This time I got up and crept toward the sliding glass door. The vertical blinds were mostly shut, but I eased one aside just a bit to look through. Someone was there. A man, maybe late 20s, crouched just outside the glass, inches from where I stood. He wasn't looking in. He was fiddling with something near the lock. A flashlight hung from his mouth, and his face was obscured by a baseball cap and cloth mask. I gasped. He looked up. We locked eyes through the glass. For a second, everything froze. Then I screamed loud enough to wake Jamie and probably half the floor. The man bolted, leaping off the balcony into the bushes below. I heard him hit the ground and take off running across the lot. We called 911. Again. This time, officers came out and swept the area, but it was too late. Whoever he was long gone. They took my statement seriously now, especially after seeing the security footage and hearing that someone had tried to climb onto our balcony. I haven't really slept since. It's been a few days now. We've been staying at Jamie's parents' place across town while we wait for the landlord to install new locks and security cameras. I keep replaying it all in my head, how they got my name, how fast it escalated. The phone calls, the guys at the door, the camera in the lot, the man on my balcony. It doesn't feel random anymore. And that's the part that messes with me most.